Shelby Miller is a Detroit Tiger, and we're going to take a look at some old scorecards. All today on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Monday, December 25th, 2023. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Happy holidays, everybody. Merry Christmas to all of those who celebrate. We are back for a Christmas edition of Locked On Tigers. Like I said, I don't like missing episodes. So here we are. We'll not be recording on Christmas, obviously, so no episode tomorrow, but we're on 3 days a week anyway, so not a big deal. We'll be back on Wednesday if everything goes according to plan. But we're here today, and we have some stuff to talk about. We have Shelby Miller is a Detroit Tiger. Another addition to this just increasing depth in the pitching department for the Detroit Tigers. So we will talk about that for the first however long of the show. And then after that, we'll kind of have some fun. It's a Christmas episode. We'll relax a little bit and go over some more scorecards because everybody got kind of a big kick out of that the last time we did it. Okay? Sound good? Cool. That's going to be today's episode. Let's start with Shelby Miller. Shelby Miller was signed by the Detroit Tigers on a one-year deal worth $3 million for the 2024 season. There is a 2025 club option that is worth $4.25 million. So immediately, the two biggest things that jump out at me are A, this team loves options, club options, that is. Really big fan of the club options, Scott Harris is, which makes sense. That it's always good to put when you're trying to build a team, it's always good and never a bad thing to put yourself and put the team in control of as many players year in and year out as possible. But so that's just been like a reoccurring theme we've seen. We've seen a lot of, okay, we'll give you 1 year and an option. That seems to be kind of a Scott Harris mantra so far early on in his tenure, which still is early on. You know, we're halfway through offseason number 2. And when talking about the money, right, $3 million with a 4.25 option, nothing to, we're not breaking the bank exactly. However, as far as relievers go, which is what Shelby Miller will be, I do think that is pretty much guaranteeing him an opening day roster spot, which is not like a surprise to anybody. You don't go out and sign Shelby Miller if you're not going to give him an opening day roster spot. But that is enough money to kind of, he's not coming in to compete with anybody. He's coming in to solidify a spot. So my initial reaction, I'm totally fine with it. I like the move. We talked a lot, and we'll talk a little bit later about the bullpen as a whole and how this bullpen there was a lot of variance going into the offseason about what the bullpen would look like in 2024, right? There was an argument that only 3, maybe 4 guys were guaranteed to have spots that ended this 2023 season in the bullpen and are guaranteed to be in the 2024 pen on opening day at least. So you're starting to solidify that group more and more. And to the players who aren't going to make the opening day roster are getting pushed back by moves like this, you are now creating depth, right? Brendan White is somebody who I have been a big fan of for a while now and who had his moments in 2023, but also struggled with command at times, really hung the slider far too often. And that's why the ERA kind of spiked at times. But I think that slider is still so good. We're not talking about Brendan White, but I do think that players like him, who are like maybe on the bubble as is, he's going to start off the season in Toledo. But having someone who you're relatively confident can be a replacement level at worst arm out of the bullpen in 2024, starting off in Toledo and being your depth option is a good issue to have, right? You will have pitching injuries. No team ever has not had a pitching injury at some point. It's just, especially in today's day and age, it's just how baseball is played. So you're solidifying that depth as well. When it comes to Shelby Miller, the pitcher, he has had a pretty fascinating career. Started off with the Cardinals, obviously, had some pretty good seasons with the St. Louis Cardinals as a starter through 173, 183, then went to the Braves through 205 innings and was an all-star, right? Remarkable. What the heck? Wow. This is why he went 6-17 with a 3.02 ERA and 33 starts. That is goodness gravy. Just looking at the baseball reference page in front of me as I'm going down ERAs and innings here. That's something I didn't notice in prep. That's wild. So he was third place for Rookie of the Year in 2013. He was an All-Star in 2015. Then started 20 games through 100 innings in 2016 for the D-backs, and proceeded to the next 3 seasons throw 22, 16, and 44 innings. Just severe injury problems over and over and over again. Did not play at all in 2020, opted out because of COVID. 2021, appears in 13 games, throws 12 innings. 2022, throws 7 innings at the major league level. It's miraculous, really. Then this past year throws 42 innings in 36 games for the Dodgers and has a 1.71 ERA with a sub-1 whip. A hit per 9 of 4.1. That is astronomically low. So this dude at 32, this year will be his age 33 season, has reinvented himself from an innings-eating starter to a reliever. And at least in 1 year, in a 1 year sample size, it worked for him. But it is very, very apparent. I mean, again, from 2017 to 2022, that is a long time. You have 22, 16, 44, 12, and 7 are the innings totals in those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Plus, did not play at all in 2020. So you have 22, 16, 44, 0, 12, and 7. This past year, 42 innings pitched, though. So there is certainly some risk, I'll call it, on him staying healthy. That's a very fair thing to bring up. But for $3 million and a guy who just threw 1.7 ERA ball out of the bullpen last year for one of the best teams in baseball, that's a risk that I am willing, just combine the word risk and willing there. That is a risk that I am very, very, very willing to take. But something you got to bring up as well. Okay, let's keep the ball rolling here. We're going to talk about his pitching style. He has also reinvented just kind of the type of pitcher he is since moving to the bullpen. We will talk about all of that right after this. Got to talk to you guys today about FanDuel. Score early this NFL season. America's #1 sports book, FanDuel. All right. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There is spreads, player props, over-unders, and so much more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off your NFL season, a FanDuel official partner of the NFL. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2 of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in, making us your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We will be back on Wednesday. Also, be sure to check out Locked On Sports Today. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. So go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Okay, Shelby Miller, Detroit Tiger. Let's talk about the type of pitcher he is. So this past season, he had a 1.71 ERA in 36 games, 42 innings, 42 strikeouts, a 0.9 whip. Very impressive number. Not much of a ground ball pitcher necessarily, just slightly below league average in that regards. Not that it's astronomically low, but a little bit below league average in ground ball last year. Really, where his bread and butter was soft contact. I mean, he had a above league average K rate as well. He had a 25.8% K rate, an 11.7% walk rate, which we'll talk about in a second. But he just did not give up hard contact or like hits. Like in very simple terms, he just did not give up hits. And we had a pitcher kind of similar to that last year in Tyler Holton, who had a really low ERA, but wasn't striking out everybody, wasn't like not walking anybody necessarily, just didn't give up hits. And that's kind of what Shelby Miller did. But there's a lot of stuff that points to this being somewhat sustainable. I'm not banking on him having a 1.7 ERA, but if he even puts up 3-ish ERA or better ball, I think that this is a massive win. He has the ability to go multiple innings if needed, as well as he did several times for the Dodgers, obviously. But so slightly above league average K rate, around league average in whiff rate. Does not get very many chases, however. We'll talk about that again when we talk about kind of his pitch repertoire here. The biggest thing, again, reiterating, circling back to my original point, ADHD's fun, is that he just does not give up hits. His repertoire is fastball, splitter, slider. And the splitter is a relatively new pitch. And when I mean relatively new, because he just hasn't had too much Major League Baseball experience over the last 5 years, this is the first season that he fully implemented it. And it was an overwhelming success for him. The splitter had a 136 batting average against, a 250 slug against, a 198 weighted on base percentage against WOBA. A 30.7 whiff rate is very good, almost a 30% strike rate. 170 expected batting average. 16. This is my favorite one. 16.7% hard hit rate on the splitter. So not only can he get strikes with it, not only can he get swings and misses with it, it was almost a guaranteed weak contact event this past season, which is why it was so effective. And the biggest reason to me why it was so effective is because he found something in his fastball this past season. Last year, it averaged at 94 miles an hour, and he threw it 58% of the time. For a dude that has had as many injuries as he has had to still be pumping mid-90s, I think is a massive win. It was legitimately one of the better fastballs in just the National League bullpen scene. They're out there last year. That was a really weird way to word like NL bullpen, National League bullpen scene. But it really was. Baseball Savant has it at a run value of plus 14. The batting average against was 110, and the slug against was 178, all while maintaining a 25.8% whiff rate. So it's not like he just wasn't getting swings and misses on it or didn't have the ability to get a swing and a miss on it either. But those are astronomically low numbers. I feel like I've said astronomically a couple of times this episode already. Weird use to be regurgitating there, but just a phenomenal season. And we've talked about this so much on this show, right? Like when the Tigers really struggled with splitter pitchers last year, we talked about how it was frustrating because this like when they faced Gausman, it was okay, well, he's just throwing low fastballs and low splitters, and we can't do anything. The what I'm struggling to say the most important thing about a splitter because I feel like the movement is still kind of, and we'll talk about his movement here in a second. The movement is kind of still like the most important for the pitch, but one of the most important things to make a splitter effective is a good fastball. That's the whole point of a splitter. Is it looks like a fastball and then it dies, but it's not going so slow that you can read it as a changeup and adjust. So if you have a good fastball to set up your splitter, you will be dang near unhittable. And that is what happened with Shelby Miller in 2023. The splitter was very effective because he had so much going for him to set it up. As far as the movement for the splitter goes as well, the vertical movement, as far as just drop, is about league average, if not a little bit worse than league average. I don't know if I want to use the word worse because it's not necessarily like, oh, better pitches automatically are, or more movement pitches are automatically just guaranteed better. But it had a little bit less movement than league average as far as vertical movement goes. But his slider and splitter both move significantly more than league average horizontally. Now, obviously, the slider, that's a horizontal pitch. That's good. So his slider moves 84% more than league average horizontally. That's always fun. Good job. Wasn't throwing the slider a ton, but still 16% of the time. That's not nothing. He's throwing that thing fairly often, especially with righties. I feel like the lefty is more of a fastball splitter thing. The righty is more of a fastball splitter and slider. He's using all three against righties. So good for him. Also, the splits, righty lefty, was really good against both and hasn't really had an overlying theme of righty lefty splits throughout his entire career. So that's always good as well to have a righty that you're confident in against lefties. That's kind of a rarity at times, especially out of the bullpen these days. But the splitter also moves 20% more than league average horizontally. And I know that horizontal movement on a splitter is not going to be like broadcasted and advertised, but that is something that's not for nothing. That is can only lead to good things. Having just another angle and another avenue to keep hitters off balance and have it, and it's it's 2.5 inches more than league average. It's not like his splitter's moving 3 feet to the left, right? It's still a vertical pitch at the end of the day. But I do think that it's kind of cool to have the vertical or the horizontal rather movement going for you in that regard as well. You can add some extra deception to it. So yeah, man, I'm really pumped about this. I think that this is a good thing. Again, all three of his pitches were phenomenal last year. The batting average against for all three of them 110, 136, and then 208 with a 162 expected batting average against his slider. So like there is, if you go by expected BA, like all of his pitches were 200 batting average against or lower. So very, very good stuff. I'm all about it. Another theme that's been happening, and we talked about it a little bit with some of the earlier additions that were made, is that extension, right? Shelby Miller is 6'3" and has a crazy large extension in his mechanics and 97th percentile in extension. That's something that the Tigers, and again, we talked about this months ago, that I think Feder really likes, and I think that the Tigers are also looking for. The one thing that is somewhat off brand about this is the walk rate. And that's where we'll end the conversation on Shelby Miller. 11.7% walk rate is well below league average. That's actually a pretty high number. But because he didn't give up any hits to anybody, he still had a sub-1 whip, which I think is impressive. But this has been a thing throughout his entire career, right? You go back and you look at even the small sample sizes in the seasons he was hurt, even the 200-plus innings pitch seasons, he's never had a walk rate better than league average, right? So that is something that I wouldn't call it concerning. I would just call it off brand because he's proven that he can still be a really effective reliever with a slightly higher than league average walk rate. But I also think that our coaching staff is really going to try and work with him and drive that point home. I'm very, very fascinated to see the new additions and the differences that walk rate is going to have with them working with this, Feder, London, Nieves, and Hinch for the first time. Because I feel like that's just such a vocal point throughout this organization, and it has to be a part of the pitch to get them to come here as well. It can't just be like not talked about. I'm really fascinated in that. So we will see. But I'm all about it. I think that he is going to be a pretty prominent fixture in this bullpen. I think that Shelby Miller is kind of a perfect first out of the bullpen guy, and that's a role that I think is so overlooked and not talked about. Excuse me. 2 years ago, I was very adamant that Jason Foley should be your first out of the pen guy because he's the sinker baller. He's not going to get strikeouts, but he gets outs. He can go out there, pitch an inning, and kind of be the bridge guy to carry you to that four-headed monster you had in 2022 at the back end of your bullpen. I think Shelby Miller's a fantastic candidate for that. I think he's a guy that you can you can throw out there after the fifth or sixth inning. He can give you one or two innings to get you to the back end of your bullpen that you're very confident in, and that can be a role that he really thrives in. It's not necessarily high leverage, but it's important innings, and that bridge from starter to back end is where a lot of teams' bullpens implode. Right, a lot of teams have really good back ends of their bullpen, but this bullpen depth that we are creating is going to allow a dude that in 42 innings had a 1.7 ERA last year to maybe be your first out of the pen, and that's really exciting. So I'm all about it. I think when we get closer to spring training, we're going to have a lot of conversations about who's on the outs and who's on the ins as far as bullpen goes, right? There's still a lot of question marks in the air for that, but you improved your depth. You brought in a guy who had a great season, who has reinvented his career. You brought in a different type, and Scott Harris talked about this during the press conference. You brought in a guy with a different repertoire than the rest of your bullpen, right? You don't have splitters out of the pen very often. That's usually a starting pitcher type of pitch. So I'm all about it. I think that this is good. Obviously, we're kind of crossing our fingers a little bit on health, but it's a low risk, high reward type of signing, and those are kind of what you want to fill your offseason with. Okay, let's talk about some old scorecards all today on why am I doing the intro. I'll see you in a bit. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Third and final segment, Locked On Tigers. I'm not sure why I did the intro there. It's Christmas in my brain too, so clearly not all there. So I went to Eastern Market the other day in Detroit a lot these days, and there is Detroit Vintage, which is just an awesome place that I just spent hours in and had an absolute blast just going through. It's just this giant building with like 3 or 4 rooms of just old stuff. And there's a sports section there. And within it, I found a 1988 Detroit Tigers yearbook. And that is sick, dude. Look at that graphic. It's a giant tiger face. And I don't know if you can see the reflection of the eye. There's a batter inside Old Tiger Stadium. Just awesome. And then the back is obviously a Domino's ad. For those who are part of the younger generation and may not know this, it's because the Illiches own the team now and they own Little Caesars. Obviously, Little Caesars is everywhere around Comerica Park. But in Old Tiger Stadium, it was strictly Domino's. Domino's was the affiliated team with the Detroit Tigers. So just really funny to kind of go back and look at. That's still pre my lifetime, but I know obviously the history of it very well. And so just really funny to go back and look at something from the late 80s and not see a Little Caesars ad on it. It's just funny to me. But yeah, there's your Domino's ad for those who remember. So yeah, I don't know if I'm going to open it up right now. It's still in like the plastic seal, but maybe someday we can open it up and take a look at it. But very cool. I'm definitely going to have a blast going through that. Let's go over an old scorecard. Okay, let me just get the giant stack out here. We'll see. Okay, this is also funny. I don't think there's a scorecard in here, but this is another program. This is from, well, it has to be 2005, right? Because I'm pretty sure that was the only year he played for the Detroit Tigers. Vina, that is. But it's just funny. I have the cover. It says Detroit's new double play duo. It's Carlos Guillen and Fernando Vina. That was short-lived. That new double play. It was 2004, sorry, not 2005. Obviously, then Placido Polanco came around, and that was the end of that. But still really funny. Fernando Vina was being like highly advertised. Oh, there you go. There's a hot and ready ad for you from 2004. Man, that means I was like 5 or 6 years old, 6 or 7 years old. No scorecard in this one though, but there is like the roster. There's Chris Shelton, Alex Sanchez, legend, stole home plate. Jason Smith. I mean, goodness, man. That's not a great team. Let's see what this is. Toledo Mud Hens. 2004 Toledo Mud Hens. I remember going to this game. I was definitely in like kindergarten for this too. Franklin Herman. There's got to be some names in here. I wonder if, dude, please tell me Marcus Thames is on this team. Outfielder Marcus Thames, number 23. Is Curtis Granderson on this team? Oh, Matt Anderson, former number 1 overall pick on this team. The first ever number 1 overall pick in Detroit Tigers history. Warren Morris, legend. Wasn't Warren Morris on the 03 team though? Maybe he was on maybe he just started off the year there. Man, I really was hoping. Oh, manager Larry Parrish. Sorry. Pitching coach Jeff Jones. I was really hoping that Curtis Granderson was on this team, but I guess not. He might have been still in the lower levels of the minors on like opening day this year. Fun stuff. Okay, let's get to an actual scorecard. I'm getting distracted. Let's see. I'm just going to like randomly kind of pick one and we'll just see what happens. Okay, this is a Phillies one. Let's try and stick with the Tigers. 2011. Did we do a 2011 last time? I feel like we did. Wow. Okay, this is against the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. We have, the top 2. Marcieres Torres and Eric Ibar. And Torrey Hunter batting 3rd. Bobby Abreu, I'm assuming that is. Alberto Calespo, I want to say that is who that probably is. Howie Kendrick, Mark Trumbo, Peter Borjos. Who's Wilson? Who's their? Oh my gosh, it's Bobby Wilson. Legend. Tigers legend Bobby Wilson catching for the Angels. And then Mike Trout pinch hit in this game. That's hilarious. 2011. This must have been a September game then, right? Because he was just a September call-up in 2011. That's so wild. I did not know that I saw Mike Trout when he was like a rookie and nobody knew who he was yet. That's so wild. Wow, Rick Porcello diced up the Angels. 8 innings, 5 hits, 2 earned runs, no walks, 6 strikeouts. And then Daniel Schlereth closes the door with 1 inning of shutout ball. Holy cow. We won 12-2. This was a massacre. Tigers lineup: Austin Jackson, Andy Dirks. Andy Dirks batting 2nd. Brennan Bosch batting 3rd and hit a homer in the 1st inning. Miguel Cabrera, Victor Martinez, Carlos Guillen playing 2nd base, Alex Avila, Wilson Bettamy playing 3rd base, Ramon Santiago at short, and then Don Kelly pinch hitting for Brennan Bosch. Well, I can tell you Jim Leland was still the manager when this game happened then. Wow, we batted around almost in the 8th inning. Only one who didn't bat was Wilson Bettamy. Wow. What a career Wilson Bettamy had, man. Let's see. Wow. Yeah, this is such a Jim Leland lineup as well. Dirks and Bosch batting 2 and 3 with Don Kelly pinch hitting. Absolutely phenomenal. Let's do one more. We got time for one more really quickly here, and then we will. I'll let you guys get on with your Christmas. Okay. Let's see. 2017. Oh, 2010. That's a little fun. Let's do this. Let's do 2010. Oh, this is the one I did last time. Oh, is it? Maybe it's not. Will Rhymes batting second, Johnny Damon third. Yeah, we definitely. I feel like that was the one we did last time because this is the White Sox. Juan Pierre, Vizquel. Yeah, that's wild. Right, because then I did the Andrew Jones revelation. Let's look at the 2017 one. Oh, I saw Michael Fulmer start. That's nice. Tampa Bay Rays. Tigers. Looks like offense was hard to come by here. 2-1 final. I feel like I did this one last time too. Let's maybe get to one that I haven't done, considering I have a stack of like 100 of these, and I just keep picking the same two. Oh my goodness, Kansas City Royals, geez. 2016. Okay, well, I'm immediately seeing that this is a Jordan Zimmerman start. This is against the New York Yankees. Looks like the Tigers, wow, the Tigers blanked the Yankees. Good for them. What is this, 2016? Luis Severino pitched, gave up 3 runs. Jordan Zimmerman, 7 innings, 2 hits, no earned runs, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts. I'm assuming this is Alex Wilson, but it could be. We had a couple Wilsons back then. Then we had, who is this? Who is Ryan? Because, obviously that's not Ryan Perry. Kyle Ryan. Wow, what a throwback. Forgot all about Kyle Ryan. Pitched a shutout inning in this one. Jacoby Ellsbury leading off for the Yankees. LOL. Is that Starlin Castro batting third? That's insane. Mark Teixeira batting cleanup. Dustin Ackley batting fifth for the New York Yankees. Chase Headley playing third. I mean, my goodness. The Tigers lineup is Ian Kinsler, Justin Upton, Miguel Cabrera, Victor Martinez, JD Martinez, Nick Castellanos, James McCann, Jose Iglesias, and batting 9 and playing center field, Anthony Gose. Looks like Austin Romine pinch ran for Castellanos in this game, who went 4 for 4 with 4 singles. Good for young Nick Castellanos. Yeah, man, low-scoring affair here, but we'll take a 3-0 victory any way we can. Brad Ausmus still listed as the manager, obviously, of this year. Omar Vizquel, one of the coaches for the Tigers this season as well. This is also this weird time for the Yankees where Alex Rodriguez was still on the Yankees roster, but he was not playing games. It was that weird thing, and then he retired mid-season, and it's that weird stretch. Marcus Thames already was like an assistant hitting coach for the Yankees. That's kind of cool. Yeah, young Luis Severino goes 5+, 10 hits, 3 earned runs, no walks, 5 Ks for the Yankees in this one. Very interesting. We have a caught stealing. James McCannon, baby. Don't test the McCannon. Wow, the Tigers, this is like, oh, Miggy homered. That's kind of cool. Miggy homered in the 7th inning, apparently. But this is just a singles fest. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 singles. 11. 10 or 11 singles in this ball game. 1 homer and 1 double. The rest all out of 13 hits. Pretty sure 11 of the 13 hits in this game were all singles. Enough to get the job done, though. We'll take it. Wow, a young, nasty Nathan Eovaldi on the Yankees roster this year as well. And Brian McCann on this roster as well. Oh, both the Romines played against each other in this one. Romine was the catcher for the Yankees still. That's kind of cool. Anthony Gose in center. Okay, that's all we got time for. I again, if y'all really like the last one, if that's like a fun thing, we can try to incorporate that more into the offseason schedule. Like I said, I can't imagine we're going to have too much time in the regular season for it, but I don't know. Rainouts happen, etc. So thanks for making us your first listen every day. Appreciate you all greatly. We will be back on Wednesday. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope. I'll catch y'all then, baby. Go Tigers.